Okay, good morning. We're on page 64 in the Maamarim of the previous Rebbe. Chelik Bey is the second volume, page 64. Just before we start learning inside, let me give a brief recap to what we're learning. And what we're learning is really an important issue and a sensitive issue. And on one hand, it sounds like the previous Rebbe is kind of hacking, and giving a zetz, giving a good bang to a certain, type of people, which he is. But his purpose is much greater, to really talk to every one of us. And he refers here to the issue of Techiyas HaMeisim beruchnius. What does it mean to resurrect the dead spiritually? This is the theme of this part of the discourse of the Maamar. So he says that a person, as the very fact that the soul, the neshama, descends from on high into a physical body, that itself is a very limiting expression of spirituality, of ruchnius. Why? The neshama on high was serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, was in a good place, was happy, and all of a sudden you take this holy neshama and you put it into a body, and it comes to a strange place. It has to learn how to adapt. It has to learn how to respond. It has to learn how to balance spirituality and physicality. That's an entire life's experience. So the very fact that there is what we call the Yeridas HaNeshama Lemata, the descent of the soul below into a body, that itself is already a limitation. That's the first thing. In other words, even the neshama of a tzaddik and a great Talmud Chochem, every soul, regardless of what they are in their body throughout their lifetime, the very fact is a yerida, the very fact that they leave their abode in heaven, in ruchnius, and they come into gashmius, that itself is already yerida. Number two, when this neshama, who has already encountered a yerida, starts dealing with all the issues in life, and they become burdensome, and they become troublesome, and they become overwhelming, and the person gets themselves into stuff, because we're average people, and we're not perfect, we're human beings, but nevertheless, sometimes we pile it on. And when we pile it on, then it starts reeking with a with a smell, with an odor that's not healthy. So that's what we call in Torah, what we call the casual word that's used in the yeshiva world, in the traditional frum world, is averos, transgressions, sins, iniquities. But in Chassidus, we look at it not just as, bottom line. We look at it a little more sensitive in spiritual terms. What happens over here? What happens when a person does something contrary to what Hashem wants or doesn't do what Hashem wants? What happens is there's a severing of the cord between one's soul and one's essence in Hashem. Yaakov chevel nachaloso. There's a verse. Yaakov is a rope, chevel, of nachaloso, of his inheritance. We have a cord that takes us back to Yaakov. Each transgression peels away one part of the cord. And when the cord is so thin, God forbid, it's severed, it snaps. This is what takes place, and the neshama then leaves, at least part of the neshama, its domain of holiness, and it enters an area called klippa, folly, nonsense, shtus, no goodness. So the Rebbe says here, the previous Rebbe says, that Techiyas HaMeisim is necessary when a person has allowed and caused their neshama to go so far away. You hear that? If your neshama is still attached and there's still some life force, you don't need Techiyas HaMeisim. You don't need to be resurrected. You're still, we all know, Rahman l'Islam, if when you go to a nursing home or a hospital and someone's very ill, we're all hoping that we're going to come and see there's still some life force there. There's still some opportunity for the person to get out of the problem because they're breathing. But Rahman l'Islam, God forbid, if someone is not breathing on a respirator, we're more worried. Because on their own, they can't breathe. On their own, they would be dead. So the Rebbe here speaks about a situation, an area in a person's life in which in that area, the person says, in this area, I'm dead. In this area, I failed. In this area, don't talk to me about. I'm no good about it. And this isn't just lip service. This is very real. We all have areas in our life that we conclude at a certain point in our life that I don't want to go there because I've tried. So that area is mace. So what are we learning? We're learning that you have to take that area and do Techiyas HaMeisim. And you can do Techiyas HaMeisim. You can resurrect the dead. So now we're in this part of the Maamar where he describes very much the cause and the illness. So then he goes to another point and he says, don't think that this is only applicable to those people that are in the business world, in the world dealing with gashmias, with material matter and business and worries and anxieties. But let me tell you, the Rebbe says, this is also true for Yoshvei Oyel. This is also true for the Kolo people and the Yeshiva people and the Rebbes and the rabbis and the Rabbanim and the Gedolim and the Tzaddikim. Everyone has an area that requires resurrection. And from that he says, how can you resurrect the dead? Only through what he calls hisbeinenus, contemplation. In other words, if you don't take the time to think about everything I'm saying, I'm just repeating from the Maamar, and you don't take the time to think about how serious the problem is, you won't be resurrected. Because in the back of your mind, you're saying to myself, but I'm a good guy. Yeah, in this area I'm a failure, but I do so many other good things. And that's true. But we're not talking about the other areas in your life. We're talking about the area that is dead, the area that failed. That's what we need to resurrect. So the Rebbe says, you the Talmud Chacham, you the student of Torah, you know how precious and important it's to learn. So let me ask you a question. Yonason, he asks the question, why is it that you, the Talmud Chacham, all of a sudden, why is it that you boast with your learning? Now, if you're not aware of it, I'll make you aware of it. This is a serious issue in the world of learning Torah. For people that are not what they call Bnei HaYeshiva, or people who were not Bnei HaYeshiva. So, you didn't know much, you learned, you're happy what you know, you learn more, but people who learned all their life, people who are learning seriously today, they can walk away many times with a feeling, I know, you're going to tell me, and I can show you what the Shach says and the Taz says and the Pri Megadim says, these are commentaries on the Code of Jewish Law, and I can show you this, and I can show you the Rambam, and I can show you the Maral, and I can show you the Chidushim Rebbe Svarim, and I can show you the Chidah, and I can show you the Rabbi Chaim Lutzatu, and I can, from everywhere and anywhere, And I can even show you the Brisker, the Rav's Chidushim, very knowledgeable. But they conclude that, and they walk away with a sense of pride, of ego. This, the Rebbe is identifying now. The Rebbe says, in this area, you're dead. You're dead. You know why you're dead? Because if there's a place in your life where you think you have one up on Hashem, and in that area you're missing godliness, and in that area you need to be revived, I don't care how long your beard is, and how big your payas is, and how much Shas you know, and how much Chassidus you know, it makes no difference. If you can conclude that you are going to be mechadish, and then he goes to this idea of mechadish. You know what Yoni means? A chidush. In other words, a Rosh Hashiva, Ruvain, your son is over there in Mir. Rosh Hashiva comes